So the question I was asked is whether I believe there is life on other planets and why. And my answer to that question is yes, but. So I'll start with a yes, and then I'll get to the but, and I promise I'll do it quickly. In terms of the yes, if you look at the way that life exists on Earth, it basically exists everywhere that it can. If you go everywhere from the bottom of the ocean to the inside of a volcano, to the air, to the ground, all temperatures, all elevations, you find life. It's actually very difficult to find a place on Earth that doesn't have life. And that suggests to me that life exists just about everywhere that it credibly can. If you look at the number of stars in the universe, you're talking about 200 billion stars in the Milky Way galaxy alone, in our galaxy alone, and then about that same number of galaxies outside of ours. And so you're looking at a tremendous number of stars, and the likelihood that those have planets, we know some of them do, we've been able to observe them, the likelihood that some of them have planets that could accommodate some kind of life seems overwhelmingly likely. As I sit here, I'm surrounded by all different kinds of life. It's very hard to imagine this is the only place in the entire universe where that could be the case. That just seems ridiculous to me. But I don't know that we'll actually ever get to know for sure. Unless we find some life in our solar system, and there's a possibility that under the oceans, under the ice on Europa, one of the moons of Jupiter, there's thought to be liquid water. Everywhere on Earth that there's liquid water, we find life. There's a thought that there may be some life there, possibly, but we just don't know. If we don't find it in our solar system, I think there's a very low chance that we'll ever find it anywhere definitively, and that's for a couple of reasons. One is just the scale of the universe. The closest star to us is Alpha Centauri, and it's 4.5 light years away, so it's an incredibly distant star, and that's just the closest star to us. Most stars are so far away that there's no way we can conceive of right now that we could ever communicate with or reach them to ever verify whether or not they had life. So I think it would be very hard to ever know whether there was life elsewhere. The other problem is one of time. Humans have existed for, let's say, 5,000 years as an intelligent species. The universe is almost 14 billion years old, and 5,000 years is a very small fraction of that. So the likelihood that we exist as an intelligent species at the same time as another species, whether it's intelligent or not, in a way that we could detect, is difficult, right? That's a very small period of time in a very, very big universal time frame. So I think that is also a challenge, is that life may have existed before, it may have stopped existing, or it may exist after us, and we may never know. So the likelihood that we can find something that exists at the same time as us and get lucky enough to communicate with them, I think is probably on the low side. But that doesn't mean that they're not out there, because I think that intuition and common sense suggests that they probably are. I'd say, as far as reading, if you are interested in this kind of thing, A Brief History of Time, Stephen Hawking, really seminal piece of work on the subject. There are great explainer videos on YouTube. There's an illustrated version. It's a short book, and it's really fascinating look. A couple of other things that you may find interesting is Carl Sagan's Demon Haunted World, Science is a Candle in the Dark. Great book, as well as 2001 A Space Odyssey, which is a novel, of course, and a great movie, but it's based in a lot of really interesting science that looks at the idea of what life might be like that's not just like us. So short answer is, yeah, I do think there's life out there, but the longer answer is, yeah, there is, but I don't know that we're ever actually going to meet them. So thanks for asking.